Well, I'm here. Hello.
How's it going?
Good. We started this like 3 times. I don't know how many of the times we're gonna get, but yeah. So Ben, I want to
Paul.
start off with an ominous thing that you wrote that said the internet didn't end today. What?
Yeah.
I was busy working all day. Why would the internet have ended?
It's actually, it turned, okay, so I was on the Seattle subreddit today. Our Seattle. Not our Seattle WA, which is a haven for right wing trolls and the anti homeless crowd, but our
Geez.
Seattle, which is better. And somebody posted a picture of a bunch of signs around town that said, the internet is over, and then today's date, 12/02, 2021, which you might have noticed is a palindrome.
Yeah.
So, but there was like a sign on a teriyaki restaurant that has been out of business for a couple years. There were little signs on like stop signs. It looked like a marketing thing, right?
So the sign on the teriyaki thing, it wasn't just somebody tacked up a sign on the teriyaki place.
No,
It
it
was
was
the
like somebody
sign of the
used like
teriyaki place.
with the
Yeah.
letters that you use on a big reader board sign. Yeah, and so this person noticed around town that there were these signs that said "Internet is over," and then today's date.
Huh.
And somebody who works at GeekWire actually found a website. I can't remember what it is. I think it's 12/02/2021 internetisover.com or some combination thereof.
Okay.
And you go to it, if you went to it earlier today, it had a big countdown clock and it was counting down to 2 p.m. Pacific. And so nobody knew what it was. And so it's like, what's going to happen at 2? What are they selling? Literally, what are they selling? So 2 o'clock rolls around, and it's promo material for a local independent book.
Oh.
Like some sort of like cyberpunk dystopia, the name of which I can't even say on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, because it contains some foul language. But
Uh-oh.
yeah, so for most of today, the internet, the Seattle subreddit was like, what's going to happen? And then everybody's like, oh, it's for a book?
Yeah. Hey, this is interesting because I was part of a Kickstarter campaign. And by that I mean I just donated to the Kickstarter campaign, not like I didn't do anything. But so there's a thing called Morkborg, and I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's like it means like Dark Fortress or something like that. It's a role-playing game, but it's all like black metal, dark kind of thing, with a really cool art design. It looks like, metal album covers and things like that.
Yeah.
So they have a new cyberpunk version of it called Cyborg, Cyborg. And it just got kickstarted recently. So it was interesting because cyberpunk things, like you mentioned. Well, yeah, so that's good. I thought that maybe this was a reference to the idea that, once again, the people who write headlines and try to get you to read their articles are at it. There's a meteor or an asteroid, I forget exactly how it works, but that's passing close to Earth. And you have to read like 5, this is in the New York Post anyway, you have to read like 5 sentences down before it's like, but there's really nothing to worry about because it's going to be, millions of miles away from us.
Is this the one that they're shooting a projectile at in hopes of redirecting it, just like as an experiment? Also,
the two
it's
things
an asteroid.
Are
It's an asteroid. It's a meteor when it enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Okay, so it's an asteroid, and I thought it was a meteor when it enters the Earth's atmosphere, and meteor when it enters the Earth's atmosphere, meteorite when it actually falls, I think is how it works.
I'm not quite sure between the scientific definitions between meteor and meteorite. Maybe a meteorite is a small little pebble left after it hits the ground.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I heard is that, and actually, I get what you're saying about the clickbait articles about there's going to be an asteroid passing close to Earth. Everybody should panic. 5 paragraphs out. There's nothing really to panic about.
Yeah, exactly.
But I did hear that a bunch of, I don't know if it's NASA or whoever, are going to fire a missile or a rocket, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a missile in the Earth's atmosphere. It's a rocket when it exits the Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
At an asteroid just to see
Yep.
if they can alter its trajectory, and just like for funsies, And part of me was like, we're in danger. They're just telling us it's an experiment.
Wow, Ben.
So
yeah.
they don't cause panic.
Top shelf Paul paranoia going on over in Benland these days.
Learn from the best.
Yeah. So I was talking to somebody about how in the 90s, when I was getting separated from the Air Force, one of the things that counted as, and first of all, just disclaimer, they were right to separate me from the Air Force. I was having mental problems.
And when you say when you say you were getting separated from the Air Force, I want to ask, well, who got the dog?
Yeah, me. Here he is, Edward.
Hey, there he is.
Yeah, Edward, official Air Force dog. No, but that would be interesting. Also,
there is an Edwards Air Force Base.
Hey, yeah, go get it, Edward. We live in Edwardsville, which I think is kind of funny. So
anyway,
but one of the reasons why they thought that I was paranoid was because I said that the government was spying on all of our phones.
And this is back when they actually were.
Yeah, and they were like, "Why would anyone do that?" And I was like, "Well,
back before they actually were."
Yeah,
but
and the reason why, of course, is data. That's why everybody is doing anything. But the thing what they're trying to do, and this is why I was talking to this person about it, is because, when a therapist is working with you, a lot of times what they try to get you to do is to see how something that you're doing is counterproductive, or whatever. They're like, well, hey, wouldn't you feel better if you weren't worrying about this all the time? And yes, of course. Don't you see how it's irrational for you to be worried about this? Yes, that's why I'm talking to you, that sort of thing.
Central tenet of therapy is ignorance is bliss.
The thing that they try to get you on when you're paranoid is, well, what's so special about you that would make somebody interested in doing these things to you? Yeah. And the answer that I would give them at the time is, man, I got bullied a lot in school for absolutely no reason. People don't need a reason. They just do it. But yeah, I was talking to folks about, and I don't know if you deal with this, Ben, or not, but do you ever see your parents gaslighting anyone? Like telling, do you have nieces and nephews?
I do have nieces. I do have nephews.
So I say gaslighting, but basically the idea that there's a problem happening, like maybe two people are fighting in your family or whatever, and they say, what's going on? And the grandma or the grandpa goes, oh, it's nothing, everything's fine, don't worry about, like, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Denying their lived experience, basically. Has that happened to you at all? Have you witnessed that?
I'm sure I have. I can't think of anything at the moment. I mean, my parents like to tell stories from back in the day, the veracity of which sometimes I'm dubious on.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't. It's a thing that adults do with children around, is to try to protect them. And
right.
And not cause worry. And so you could call that gaslighting, or you can call that, they're too young to understand what's going on, so why worry about it?
Right. So this I was easing you into it. Now I'll go into the actual thing.
Hit me with the tough stuff.
Something that happens with my parents specifically, that I've seen this happen before with my nieces and with Betty and stuff like that, is that if something is happening that is where they're raising a complaint, right? You know, I was in so and so's room and they sprayed perfume and it got in my eyes, and they sprayed perfume in my eyes. Oh, that didn't happen. Stuff like that. Like not stuff that other people are doing. I did the other people first. I am not saying that your parents have ever done this. I'm saying that I've observed mine do it, right?
Yeah.
I've observed them downplay injuries that people have had, things of that nature. And it led me and I got on this because I was talking about paranoia. The thing that happened to me is I was like, hey, wait a second now. All the times that I remember complaining to them about something and them saying, oh, don't worry, it's nothing. I'm now viewing a pattern. And so, of course, you know, these days, anytime I'm with them, I'm like, hey, so and this is one of the big ones. So when I was on my roller skates and I tried to jump over the chair and then I hit my head and got knocked out, when someone else who was prone to hitting and pushing me happened to be in the same place at the same time, did I really try to jump over a chair in my roller skates? Or is that the story that you told me to, you know, that sort of thing?
Is that your older sister?
I'm not going to say, Ben, for
you
sure.
You already have. We all know.
Yeah.
It's also a form of denial. I mean, I sort of get why parents do that. That didn't happen. You know.
Yeah, and you know their thought, and I'm sure it's right. I mean, and when I say I'm sure it's right, I mean I don't think it's right, but I'm sure that one could argue that it is. That it's in the past, it didn't happen. Let's try to.
Or it's not as big of a deal as you might be thinking.
Right, exactly. Because that's what I get a lot is, why do you keep dwelling on the past? And that was a long time ago. I'm sure you don't remember what happened. You were too young to remember what happened, that kind of thing. But yeah, so I think about that now because Christmas is coming, Ben.
The goose is getting fat.
And she's still there at their house. We didn't go to Thanksgiving because she was at the house.
Oh, I see.
The rule is basically that we're not going to go over there until she moves out, because she should not be living there because she attacked my mom. Right?
Yeah, you have told me, but off the record, so I'm surprised that you're saying it.
Yeah, and well, okay, so grain of salt. This isn't a court of law or anything. This is just what I'm saying happened. And so yeah, I mean, this is the thing, is that we're like, consequences. No, as long as that's happening, then that's not happening. But the hard part is that my mom wants us all there. She wants us to go there. And it's tough. And I realize that well, this does happen. The state does this all the time, prosecuting somebody even when the victim of the crime says, I don't want to press charges or whatever. Same sort of thing. But I'm just thinking about it because Christmas is coming, and anytime I think about it, I'm like, oh right, that situation is still in the ether, up in the air, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
Berg. Also, before that,
yeah. Sorry,
say again.
I was going to say, unfortunately, that's also kind of happening in my family, but instead of that situation, it's my I have cousins who refuse to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
And so my immediate family, my parents and my sister and her family, have basically decided that we're not, like, Christmas and Thanksgiving are essentially the only time we ever see my extended
Yeah.
family. And that this is the second year, going on the second year now. But now, like previously, it was like, well, none of us are getting together, you know.
Right.
But this year, it's like, well, you're not vaccinated, and you're actually quite vehemently against them for some reason, and so we're not gonna get into that. So
Yeah. For those who are listening, there's a new variant that came out that everyone's real scared of.
Omicron.
Or more concerned about, called Omicron.
You know, it's funny too because when the
Sounds
Delta
like a
variant,
Decepticon.
when the Delta variant came out, it felt like it was the same sort of like hype about how deadly and dangerous it was.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not downplaying the severity.
I don't know. I get a different feel off of the Omicron
Do
one.
you?
It might just because it's called Omicron. It's got 3 syllables instead of 2. I don't know.
Yeah, and
but
it is a transformer.
yeah, I feel like oh, okay, well this one is like, all right. Just in my own personal life, I did not hear when the Delta variant came out, right? People who were vaccinated worrying about the Delta variant.
Right.
You know, they were just like, oh, there's a new Delta variant. Good thing I'm vaccinated. The Omicron variant, from what I mean, some people are like, look, maybe we shouldn't do stuff because of this.
Well, no, I mean, maybe it is because I remember when the Delta variant became a thing, even people who were vaccinated were like, we were gathering in small groups unmasked, but now we have to put our masks back on because of the Delta variant. And so, and like,
granted, I'm in Illinois. I mean, that's part of it. That might be part of it.
Are you denying my lived experience, Mr. Goody?
No. I'm saying that didn't happen here, Ben.
Well, it happened.
You just don't remember. You were
in reasonable places, but
you were a lot younger than Ben. You probably just imagined that you heard that.
Oh, it wasn't as bad as that.
Yeah, we didn't get together at Thanksgiving. For Thanksgiving, we went to a restaurant. Most of the people at the restaurant not exactly thrilled to be there at
workers?
Thanksgiving. Yeah, but it was
or the customers.
Actually, there were some people who were complaining about the service they were getting. I'm like, look, man,
that's the worst type of people.
Yeah. But so we went to that, and just so you know, restaurant closed at like 4, and so they all went out to dinner after that or whatever. We went to a whole bunch of tourist places after that on that Friday after Thanksgiving, and one of them was the world's fastest pop machine. So it said world's fastest pop machine.
Pop machine.
And Ben,
was it fast?
It was no faster than any pop machine I've ever used in my entire life.
You put $1 into the thing, and the 75 cents. 75 cents. You drop 3 quarters into it, and then it's supposed to come out like super fast.
You put
so fast you can't even open it for like a half an hour because the carbonation's all strung up.
You put 3 quarters in. You press the button. The machine goes, and then it drops. Same as any soda machine. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I posted it, and in it, I'm saying this is the world's fastest pop machine. I press it, nothing happens. It falls. I laugh hysterically because it's so regular, and we're all talking about it. And I posted to TikTok, and somebody wrote on the TikTok, "Not interesting." Which, yes. And I was like, I don't know what to do for you at this point, because obviously I still liked what happened. I posted it. So I can't apologize to you. I can't say, sorry, that was a bad thing to post, because I don't think it was. I thought it was good. I can't give you money back. This is free content. And I can't give you your time back. It's already happened. So the only thing I can do is block you, so that you never have to look at my content again. So that's what I did. So I blocked
that seems like the reasonable course of action. I don't know if you've ever gone on YouTube and looked at the comments on our very first American Doctor Who video.
No, of course not. Why would I?
It's been online for almost 10 years now, and people are not happy with it. They're not impressed. And every time somebody posts a comment to it, it's like, this is dumb, I reply, thanks for watching.
Oh my gosh, Ben.
I'm just like super nice to them.
Yeah, no, I couldn't. I would not be able to read the comments for that. Again, I read the comments back when I was working on the Lol Work YouTube video stuff, and that was horrible. That was again the same thing, kind of like the stuff that was happening. I'll tell you exactly what it was. I think you'd already know about this, but so they were taking clips that other people posted, right?
Yeah.
And making their own show and posting it. In order to do that, you had to actually say stuff over the clip itself.
Right.
Because that's what made it your content. Right? If you just reposted the thing that someone else was posting, if you just reposted it, they could have you take it down because of copyright. But as long as you were commenting on it. So I had to talk over the clips, and people were super mad about me talking over the clips. And that wasn't good. Also, people, once again, very similar. It's funny, Ben. Now, we've talked about this before. I have a strange relationship with my Jewish ancestry, right?
Yeah.
It's the 23andMe thing. The percentage is weird because they actually go off of somewhat anyway what your older relatives identify as. So if there's any sort of shenanigans happening, that'll be different. But let me tell you, as far as racist people and anti-Semitic people go, I am definitely Jewish because it's one of the first things that comes up whenever people threaten me online.
Yeah.
So it's funny because it happened then, and it happened again on the podcast and things like that, which is why I started becoming interested in Judaism.
Well, happy
because I was like, well, I should at least know something about it if there's a chance that like Superman on Earth in the Midwest, Southern Illinois, I might be the most Jewish person anyone meets, and they ask me questions.
I was walking downtown. I was going home a couple days ago, and I crossed the street, and on the other side of the street, walking towards me, but on the other side, were these three guys dressed like Hasidic rabbis. But they looked young. They looked like they were in like their early 20s, sort of like Jewish Mormons is kind of what I thought they were, and Jewish Mormon missionaries, the equivalent. And I had my earbuds in, but the guy was like waving to me, so I take my earbuds out, and he's like, "Happy Hanukkah!" So I say, "Happy Hanukkah," and continue walking on. And he's like, "Are you Jewish?" And I'm like, "Nope," and continue walking. But it was one of those things where it's like, I wonder, like, because I said Happy Hanukkah to him and not like Merry Christmas or Go F yourself or whatever. I just felt that for whatever reason, I did good in that moment.
I think so, yeah. And so a couple of things. Number one, not that many Jewish missionaries. I don't know if you know, close practice. In general, you got to ask, you can ask, and things like that. And this is true. This is, and I,
I knew
I'm
that.
telling on myself.
I didn't know what they were selling. I knew they weren't, looking for converts or anything like that.
Yeah. I'm telling on myself a little bit, but as I studied more and more into Judaism, they're like, these are all the things that you need to do. Non-Jewish people, these are the things you do, and the number of things that non-converts have to do in order to like abide by Jewish law, a lot less stuff to worry about. So I was like, well, maybe. But the big thing, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, Ben, but the main thing was Jennifer and Betty not really interested in doing it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the guy at Shir Hadash said, and by the guy at Shir Hadash, I mean the rabbi that I was talking to, was that, this stuff isn't going anywhere, and you may want to spend more time with your family than looking into these practices. And it was really nice. It was a really good thing to note.
Right.
And things have gone pretty well since then.
Good.
Jennifer's doing really great, doing a lot of cool stuff, and Betty likes me from what I can tell, even though I forced her to do the podcast and all that. So yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good,
probably also force her to do homework and eat dinner and all the things that kids don't want to do.
And then the other thing is, and this is kind of dumb, but also true, as long as my adoptive parents are alive, they are not in any way, shape, or form supportive of me doing anything related to Judaism at all.
You mean your Lutheran minister father?
Have I mentioned to you that now that I've started paying attention, their diet is basically like there's no way that I can eat there and be kosher and eat everything that they serve. I'm not saying that they're trying to trick anybody into anything, but there's a lot of ham involved, things of that nature. So yeah,
good old Midwestern, meat and potatoes kind of meal.
Yeah, back when I was getting a little bit more into it, he actually sat down and talked to me about stuff, and I'm like, look, this is not something that, because I was asking him a lot of Old Testament questions, which normally I don't. So he was getting a little things, and I think this is something that the Lutherans, and conspiracy again, but not really, but sort of also. As I got older, the Lutherans started to become concerned about that. There was a one point in time, and I remember this to this day. I told my parents that I wanted to go to the University of the Loop in Chicago for school. Yeah. And the psychologist that I was seeing at the time, I might not have mentioned this on the podcast, but this is true. The psychologist I was at the time said to my dad that he wouldn't recommend it because that school was, and I'm quoting here, too Jewish. After which he said, "I think you know what I mean." And
in case I'm being too subtle,
I was a high school kid at the time, but I was like, I think I might have cracked your code a little bit on this, but I'm not positive.
Don't need the Enigma machine to.
Although the one thing that I did think about was that maybe when he said, "I think you know what I mean," was that he was worried that I would fall in with a group there. So that was part of it.
A randy band of Jewish kids.
Martin Luther famously liked Jewish people at first, and then said, "Hey, by the way, I've done a whole bunch of stuff. I went back to the original Hebrew text and retranslated a whole bunch of stuff, and I think you guys will like it." And they're like, "No, that's okay. We're good." And then he wrote very anti-Jewish things. The German translation of one of the books. Yeah. I'm not saying anyone needs to look into it, but yeah, we've very much not.
We as a people, as Earthlings, have mined that. We know what happens when you read too much into that.
Yes. Also, that was the other thing. Right now, there's a there's an argument happening in D&D TikTok. It happens every once in a while about how goblins are anti-Semitic and you shouldn't. And not just, and this is the thing, is people are like, well, yes, the portrayal of them in these things and the caricatures that they use for them and these things, yes, all that. And then they will, and there are some people who will say, and granted, I'm not big on this, so it's possibly true. I want to point out, possibly true, that goblins in fairy tales were also caricatures of Jewish people. But the thing that I will say is that I don't know about you, Ben, but I've read a lot of the Brothers Grimm books. And in the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, there are times where Jews are just Jews. They just show up and they're everything. You don't need to caricature something that you're just blatantly talking about.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. So yeah, we should mention that we are in the midst of Hanukkah. Wait, is it over now? No.
No. This
not
is
over
like
yet.
day 4, maybe day 5.
Yeah. So yeah, this Christmas, if you see someone who's Jewish and you say Happy Hanukkah, you're a little late. That's all. I mean, it's still nice. I'm sure people will like it, but yeah.
And if somebody
do not
says
always coincide.
And if somebody just out of the blue, someone you don't know, says Happy Hanukkah to you, regardless, just say Happy Hanukkah back. You don't need to force your own
unless it's
ideology on them.
Unless it's a shirtless guy dressed up like Santa with like a 2x4 and he's like swinging it around, yelling it, then you don't have to. Then you might just keep a safe distance because who knows what's going on with that guy.
Hey, speaking of D&D, that pesky Omicron variant might force our upcoming D&D game to go online only. I know that doesn't really matter for you. You were planning on doing that anyway, as you mentioned on the email thread. Too bad email doesn't have a downvote button. Or I would
because you would have downvoted my thing.
I would have downvoted your little poke, your little joke there, your jab.
It's too bad. Mentioned. I think I mentioned this before, but yeah, it's good that we did not spend money on plane tickets for me. Not that we would have.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I know. Part of. So I'm of two minds.
Because
there's
go ahead.
About the game, because it'll be, if we do end up, and right now the plan is to still gather in the theater. Everybody gets tested.
And I think the note that like you or Ian said, which I think is true, is that plan for it being there, because if it's not being there, then we'll just do it online. And because it takes less planning.
I mean, that's what I was saying. If we can do it here, we're still planning on doing it here. But if we have to move online, it's a lot less work for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know. The one thing I will say, and I didn't say this in the thread because I don't want to sway anyone, but if I'm doing like a Zoom call for work or whatever, if there is a Zoom call and everyone has their own setup, everyone's got their own computer and they're all calling in, it's much easier than if I'm calling in, some other guy's calling in, and everybody else is in a conference room together. It's harder to hear the people,
right?
That sort of thing.
That was one of the things where I have to do is to make sure that the feed from all the microphones gets into your ears.
Yep.
Cleanly. Which I can do. I mean, I'll just
give everyone a lavalier. That's not hard.
I'll just tell my system here hey, what normally comes into this? Put that over to Paul.
Exactly. Do we have Steven today?
We don't. We have nobody. We had one person watch for 1 second at the top of the show.
Wow, that's crazy.
Was it. I know. So
you
can say whatever you want, because nobody will hear you. Shouting into the void.
Now this is something that's true. Is I am much more free on this podcast than I would be if I knew that there were listeners. Because I don't have many controversial opinions, but depending on where someone is in the Overton window, that might be controversial. Who knows? Not sure. I watched Fargo again. Did I mention that to you?
Yeah,
was I talking about last time?
Week, how you were watching it in chronological
narrative I finished
order.
Yep. Finished it. Fargo season 3 got done yesterday. So now looking for some new stuff.
I have 2 episodes of Squid Game left.
Oh yeah.
I did spend about 8 hours watching the Beatles Get Back. So my Squid Game binge had to take a break because I watched the Beatles documentary, which highly recommend if you like the Beatles at all, or if you were as big into them as a kid as I was.
I remember somebody was complaining that there have been too many Beatles documentaries, said someone. And someone else said, well, at least one person who watched it said it totally changed his mind about what was happening during the Beatles, during that time with the Beatles. And that person was Paul McCartney. So take that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I did see an interview with, I saw an interview with Peter Jackson, but he was relaying the story where...
Okay, so question for you. Peter Jackson.
Yes.
Is it Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings Peter Jackson, or is it Peter Jackson who is somehow related to the Beatles?
No, it is Peter Jackson, the director of Lord of the Rings.
Okay, that's kind of cool. That's great.
He and his editor spent 4 years putting this thing together. It's really interesting, but he did say that so he would take some of the footage he took the footage to Paul and Ringo like on an iPad just to make sure that they were okay with what he was doing. And yeah, he said that, I can't remember if it was Paul or Ringo, it sounds like it was Paul, that he forgot what a great time, like how loose and jovial everybody was, because when the original Let It Be movie came out, and actually I've never seen it, but the Beatles were in the midst of breaking up. And so they're all having these, this terrible animosity towards each other. And then they go see this movie where they're being jerks to each other because the director just like cherry picked all the times when they were being terrible. And so, yeah, I can see how for the last 50 years he was like, we didn't have a good time at all doing this. And so you really get a sense that when you're watching this documentary, that they are, I hate to use a phrase, but they are a family. They've been a group since they were 15 years old.
Yeah.
George he's 25 during this thing. Like his life hasn't even gotten started yet. And so
have we talked already about George's
they're having
son?
a good time. Danny Harrison, have we?
How he looks like a clone of his dad.
It's remarkable. Have you seen the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Prince?
When my guitar gently weeps.
Yeah,
I think we might have talked about this on the podcast before.
Yeah. We certainly have, because I love that video.
The thing I love so much about that video is how excited he is when Prince shows up.
Oh, Danny Harris, yeah.
Yeah. And also though Prince, I mean, they're all doing a thing. Everybody's happy to be there. It seems like to me.
I would hope so.
And Prince throwing his guitar into the air and it never coming back down again is amazing.
I've convinced myself I know what happens to the guitar, but I want to live in a world where Prince throws that guitar up and it never comes down ever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it's somewhere out there. It is that guitar is still looking for a place to land.
I remember, and I don't know if this is apocryphal or if it is true. I'm almost positive this is what happened. Prince once on Late Night with David Letterman appearance pretended to shoot himself, and then a woman drags him off stage, like with his fingers.
I do not remember that.
And I from what I understand, he had planned to pretend to shoot himself like for real, like with blanks and a thing, and there was no way that they were going to let him do it.
No.
And so he said, "Okay, well, I'll just do this then."
Even a gun with blanks can kill you.
And it reminded me of when Clint Eastwood did a speech to Barack Obama in an empty chair at some Republican convention. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was I believe that was the 2012 Republican convention.
Because it was supposed to be a Barack Obama impersonator. And the Barack Obama impersonator didn't show up, and Clint Eastwood was like, I'll still do it.
I'm still doing the bit. I've memorized it.
So, yeah.
What a weird time.
What
I remember in 2008, I went to this Halloween party. And this was like a month before, like not even a month. This was like weeks, like a week or 2 weeks before the election in 2008. And Halloween came around, and I wore a Got Jesus t-shirt and went as a McCain Palin supporter because at the time that was the scariest thing I could think of.
Yeah.
And how far we've come.
Well, I don't know. I mean, and I'm serious about this. I feel like the same people who really liked Palin are the people that like Donald Trump. I think there's a straight line to that. Same, this is someone who is charismatic for their circle.
Yeah.
Who makes other people mad. And that's the thing, is that they're voting to spite other people rather than what they really want.
Yeah. Owning the libs is a platform for a lot of Republicans. I don't care what your policies are, but as long as you piss off liberals, you got my vote.
Yeah. And the thing, I've mentioned this before, and I still believe it. Even though they have made me sad sometimes, in general, the Democrats seem to adhere to reality more. Is what I'll say.
I think so. Again, you have a point there.
I didn't come to the side of things just because I wanted to make my parents mad or whatever. It just makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Most of the left stuff that there are a few things that I'm sure I can't think of them right now, but I'm sure there are a few things that I don't agree with. Can't think of any right now.
Well, I mean, one of the big,
I don't know.
Well, the Democrats still aren't great on immigration, and
not Democrats. I mean, just the left in general. Because Democrats, there's a whole bunch of stuff.
It's just
welfare, things like that. Yeah. But in general, the left seems to make more sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because you're a reasonable person who doesn't hate. I mean, I watched this video about. Oh, I think I may have mentioned this on like a Twitter thread with between you and me and Steven and maybe Jason, but because it was I watched this video on why the right aren't funny.
Yeah,
and the central thesis of this guy's video was that it was the left has more. The left has better comedians because the left has comedians who are coming to politics, whereas the right has politicians who are going to comedy.
Yeah. Now there are some. We've talked about this. Mike from Mystery Science Theater 3000 was right leaning. Oh my gosh, Ben! Did we ever find out about Jay Johnston? If that was him or not? Everyone just forgot about it, right?
Everyone did kind of forget about it. I looked it up once, maybe a couple of weeks after we talked about it. I looked up the Snopes article, but it was still undetermined. But I have not. I mean, I think I follow enough news that if Jay Johnston got arrested for January 6th, it would cross my radar.
Okay, we're doing it, Ben. Snopes.
But just to finish up a thought on why the right aren't funny, it's also comedy based on hate. And comedy based on getting the other person. And so that's not always going to work.
Oh, Ben, I'm looking at the article. It's coming. Oh, it's taking so long to load, Ben.
Oh, this is why we keep it wrong, Paul.
Unproven. Still unproven. So who knows?
I mean, it looks like him.
Oh, geez. Yeah. But okay, so and I know this is dumb for me to, but if he is the funniest person on the right that I know about, because I mean, this is the thing, and I hate to say it, but Jay Johnson, Everest, the story of Everest, one of the funniest things I've seen. So that would be it. But yeah, but that joke doesn't have anything to do with anything bad.
I mean, it's a great physical comedy bit, but I don't even know, like, did he write that sketch? Did Bob write that sketch? I mean,
yeah, I'm sure he didn't, but I don't know for sure. The guy who wrote some of the sketches that we like the most of, I think, is the guy that they call Starburns on Community.
Yeah. Dino Stamatopoulos.
Yeah, he did the audition one, I believe, and I believe he did the pre-taped call-in show. I think he did both of those.
Those are two pretty remarkable sketches.
Yeah. But can we talk about Steven, if you're listening to this? I also did some stuff on the old TikTok about it. I had to get talked down about the thing that Steven was convinced was a real thing that I think was a failed comedy bit. Because I was like, Jennifer's like, why do you care so much? Why do you care so much? I'm like, well, he thinks that it's real, but you can, when you watch it.
Okay, I think we need to explain what we're talking about here. So, and this was actually the post that Steven sent us where we talked about why the right can't be funny. Yeah. So it's a clip from Laura Ingram's show on Fox News. And the guest starts referring to a show on Netflix called You. And Laura Ingram is like, you talked about it on Netflix. And Laura's like, I never talked about the vaccine on my show. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about Netflix's. Actually, that would be too clear. I'm talking about You, the show You. What? Netflix has a show called Laura Ingram, and it actually goes on for a lot longer than it should.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where it's almost absurd. And you have to think it was a rehearsed comedy bit that they just did not pull off very well, as opposed to an actual misunderstanding.
The reason why I think it is a rehearsed bit is the same reason why I can't be sure and why it was a big deal. I am using all of my autistic powers and everything that I learned about comedy to watch that clip and go, the way that he says you right there, the way that he introduces the word you, he puts an emphasis on it that a normal person doesn't put emphasis on the word you like that.
Yeah.
He is setting it up because he knows that she's supposed to pick up on the word you. So he's emphasizing it in a way that she will pick up on it, but she takes too long to answer him because her timing is off. And this is because they're speaking unnaturally. And if they were actually saying this, that it would have a totally different cadence. And I'm thinking about all this. And the reason that I was so incensed is because Steven didn't say, well, I think it's real. Like if he had said that, well, I think it's real. I would have like, okay, you think it's real? I think, but he's like, it's sad that you think, or something like that. Like he did not accept the idea that it being a fake thing that they were setting up was a possibility. And that's what I was like, it can't, no. It's like when you ask a computer to divide by 0, it won't do it. You know, that sort of thing. Same sort of deal.
It's only a minute long. I'm going to play it, but hang on a sec. I got to make sure that you can see it too.
Okay.
Means...
I'm going to talk through it. You can figure out whether to load it or not. I think that actually this is good. We can play it as long as I talk through it, which I'm going to. So it becomes ours.
All right. Okay. That means I gotta do something else here. Keep talking.
All right. So the thing that I'm going to do is I'm gonna it may not sync up, but I'm gonna talk about when they do things that I think show that they're thinking about this too much, that it's a comedy bit that they've maybe not worked on, but at least discussed.
Right. All right. So I've enabled you to be able to talk over this. So
now the first thing is when the way that he says "you," watch the pause that he takes. I'll point it out when it gets to it.
To the politics and all those woke storylines in so many shows today. You know, I was watching an episode of You where measles came up.
Of You, the way it says that.
When did I mention measles?
I don't know. It was on You.
And she's the way that she's shaking her head like that.
What was on me? What are you talking about? Is Raymond even hearing what I'm saying? I never had the measles.
Was on You.
And the way that he says "you" again, and he blinks, he doesn't say a show called
You.
You.
We never did a measles and vaccine episode. Is this a joke?
I know.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
And this is a joke. This is stupid. She keeps on repeating that kind of thing.
Raymond, I've never had measles.
To telegraph.
What are you talking about? This is stupid.
It was an episode.
What are you talking about? This is stupid.
Laura.
She wouldn't normally say that to her coworker.
You. It's called You.
I've never done a show on measles. I just completely give up. We gotta get
It's a show
I give up.
called You on Netflix.
See,
there's a show called Laura Ingram on Netflix.
There's a show called Laura Ingram on Netflix.
I can't explain this to you.
Come on.
I like how he nopes out of there too.
Yeah, but you're with me on this, right?
Yeah.
It
feels like a poorly rehearsed comedy routine.
Speaking of a poorly rehearsed comedy scene.
Hey, Betty!
Hey, Betty! Betty and I have been walking again.
Good.
For our health. Hey, how do you like this going on? I'm actually a big fan.
It's a new look for you. It's I can't help but think of Lemmy from Motorhead.
Right? It's a very Lemmy from Motorhead. It's a very I'm able to wear the mask.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of a tough guy.
Tough guy, huh?
As opposed to a hobbit, which is what I was previously.
Were you a hobbit? I need to show you.
I was a hobbit for a little while.
Probably, I don't know if you can see this on my my
scruff. A little bit of stubble you got going there.
Yeah,
some scruff.
I don't like having this facial hair, but I also don't like shaving when it gets this long.
Look at here he is. Oh, what's happening to that on the side there?
Oh, that's what happens when I pull up the video settings to switch you back to this camera.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Look at that guy.
Here I am. Look at Edward.
Hey, look who it is.
Oh, God.
What's up?
Hey, what's up with you?
Not much. So, news,
yeah.
The new season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is out now.
Stone Ocean.
Yeah. We're gonna watch it sometime. I can't anymore right now because I'm waiting for someone online. But at some point in the near future, my parents and I are going to watch it.
Yep.
I hear that this new season is weird, but not in the way people think. And I'm trying to parse what that means.
I couldn't tell you. I haven't seen it yet.
Or maybe he's
There's
talking
a
about
woman.
the previous season.
There is a woman.
There is a woman.
There are at least 3 women, maybe more.
Which is a lot of women for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah, this part 6 is considered like the most female-centered part.
Well, that's good.
There are also a bunch of female characters in part 8, but that's like light years ahead in animation status.
Cool.
We're gonna have to wait another 10 years for part 8 to be animated.
Animation takes a long time, unless you're South Park and it takes a week. I'm not quite sure how they pull that off, but you probably don't even watch South Park.
I see that you're drinking your Monster.
Yep, I gave into my impulsive tendencies.
Is it grape or is it purple?
I don't know what it is. You can taste it for yourself. It just tastes like...
That's okay. I won't.
It tastes like its own thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Ben. I have to tell you, there's a cat. And Ben was like, oh, a cat. And what I wanted to say is, be careful. That might be a stray cat. But what I said was, be careful. That cat might be its own deal. Which I think is good.
Yep. That cat's a free spirit. I think speaking of the
looking at each other, what's happening?
Monster being purple, there's a comedian, his name is Lewis Black, and he's like, NyQuil is flavored red and green, and you can take any one, and it's the only thing that tastes like the color red and the color green.
I don't really keep NyQuil in my mouth for any reasonable amount of time. They say that, like, the weird shit that you find in, like, grape
Mark it down.
And grape soda mostly is, like, the taste of purple. But I think that this is what purple tastes like.
Yep. It's its own flavor.
Good. Because it tastes good. And purple deserves to taste good.
Purple's had a hard go of it lately, so it deserves to taste good.
Anyway, yeah, because grape medicine tastes like dookie.
Drink.
Anyways, I'm gonna go now.
All right. See you, Betty.
Bye.
Bye, Betty. Good talking to you.
Sorry, what?
The reason she brought up NyQuil is because I told her about that Lewis Black sketch, or the Lewis Black bit where NyQuil comes in 2 colors, red and green, and it's the only thing that tastes like red and green.
I feel like green would taste more piney than it does.
I can't remember the last time I had NyQuil. I mean, I remember being a kid and my mom would force a spoonful of cough syrup on us if we, before bedtime if we had a cough, and I generally didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like Robitussin. Apparently, there was a thing when I was going to high school called Robomaxing, where you would drink an entire bottle of Robitussin.
That was called Tussin when I was in college. My friends would tuss. They would just drink a whole. It was even there was generic like drugstore Robitussin. It wasn't a brand name, but it was like a dextromethorphan hydrobromide was the active ingredient and it was one of those things where like you had to drink a bottle of Robitussin and then after like a half an hour you would vomit and then you would get high.
I never did it. So
I never did it either, but I watched my friends do it constantly.
I do know there's a guy whose name I will not say, who I went to high school with, who apparently had problems with that. Like it got to the point where it actually overtook his life a little bit.
Oh, really?
And from what I understand, he would go to grocery stores, run in and drink a Robitussin before they could get to him.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And I was like, that is the opposite of the perfect crime.
Yes.
So anyway, it looks like, speaking of the opposite of the perfect crime, we have once again produced an hour-long podcast, Ben. We're very good at this
content. Without,
yes.
I mean, if one of those things, if somebody went through and edited together the highlights, it might be, I don't know, a couple minutes.
5 minutes long, I swear.
But we know how to pad the hour.
Man, Ben, maybe that's what's going to happen. Maybe someone will put an AI to all this and take out, like, and it's called the GudeLaurance show, and it's just every time that you and I say one right after the other. Hey, speaking about which, I wonder what happened to Faces of Fetzer.
Faces of Fetzer?
Yeah, I made a thing for the wrap of a certain show where we had recorded, and it was all the times that he well, it was ATF. Oh
yeah,
man, I didn't know
he was on camera.
Yeah, so all the times that he messed up when he was talking, I made a super cut of
it. That's probably got thrown away with some box of VHS tape somewhere.
I seem to remember he wasn't very happy that I did it, but other people loved it.
Then in that case, I'm not going to look too hard for it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't look too hard for it, Ben. And speaking of not looking too hard for it, it's the end of the show.
Hey, keep it wrong, Paul. I'll talk to you next week.